So this is like a special bonus speakdom that I want to do here to follow up on the video I did a few weeks ago about getting rid of toxic people out of your life. This was not originally on the docket for speakdoms. I have other ones that I did that were pre-recorded that are going to be going up in the next few weeks because I talked about a lot of different topics. But I want to follow up the one that I did about toxic people, getting them out of your life, because there were a lot of people who were asking me, well, what constitutes a toxic person? And I think a lot of you guys already know this. Some of you guys don't. And the first thing I want to get clear is that everyone's tolerance level is different. And somebody whom I consider toxic doesn't mean that you will. And for all intents and purposes, you may actually be a toxic person and not realize it. A lot of times people, I don't think people behave maladaptively and know what they're doing unless they're actual psychopaths. You know what I mean? A lot of times people behave in a negative way because of something that influenced them to behave that way. Their upbringing, their parents, their attachment theory, all these different things that constitute and create who you are. That's going to lead to somebody behaving toxic. Most of the time it's not their fault. The problem is when you're dealing with people who are chronically toxic and people who are chronically trying to bring you down. Some people call them energy vampires. There are people that when you're around them, they just drain your energy. You just feel so like even if you like them, you're like, okay, enough. Okay, you know what I mean? Did you ever get into a conversation with somebody and it's going good, but then somewhere it just goes down this weird rabbit hole and you're just like, okay, I want to leave this conversation. Sort of like that, except chronically, it happens more than once. Because we all have our bad days. People have good days and bad days, but if it's something where it's like a mentality, and that actually is the first bullet point, because I want to make this video about what I think makes up a toxic person. Okay? So I'm going to run through these. And now, when I run through my list of what makes a person toxic, I want you to know that, number one, I haven't written this down. Maybe I will write it down. Maybe I'll pause this video and write it down and come back. But I haven't written it down. And number two, you have to really do a lot of thinking here, because what's happening to a lot of you guys is you guys are in these friendships that you think are real friendships. They're Discord, Twitter friendships, or they're friendships with friends you play Call of Duty on every night or whatever game you like, Destiny 2, and you think these are your friends and you don't have any outside friends. Now, obviously, this video is not going to be about making friends, because that's a whole separate thing. Maybe I'll do one on that later on, but it's going to be mostly about the types of people to avoid. And the reason why you should avoid these people is because they don't serve the same purpose you do. They don't have the same ideology you do about life, whatever that may be, and they tend to be the ones to bring you down. Some of them might actually be your closest friends or even family members. Some of these might even be your parents. I'm not saying to never speak to them again. Understand? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you want to make them not the focus of your life. You understand what I'm saying? Keep them at a distance. Keep them at arm's length, because if you bring them into your inner circle, a lot of these toxic people tend to infest and destroy. So, what kind of people do I avoid? People who are always complaining about their situation. It's one thing to complain, but if you're complaining about things that you know you can resolve with a little bit of hard work and discipline, and you're bitching and bitching and bitching and bitching about it, I don't have time for you anymore. I used to. I don't have time for you anymore, because it's draining, it's obnoxious, and it's also lazy. What people tend to do, instead of actually working hard and getting and accomplishing goals, is they just complain. And they come up with these invisible brick walls that block them from accomplishing their goals. Well, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm this ethnicity. Oh, the cop said this to me, or that person said that, or, I was born like this. My parents were broke. Dude, my parents were broke. I grew up poor. And I am anything but poor now. You understand? And I didn't get anything easy or handed to me. I went to college, did it myself, trade school. I got jobs by myself. People who are not self-sufficient, who suck other people financially, spiritually, emotionally, get those out of your life, dude. Even if it requires, removing somebody who you really care about, doesn't mean you have to stop caring about them, but You don't want them to eat up too much of your time because they will bring you down and they'll start messing with your energy. You understand what I'm saying? You want to have positive people in your life who are going to be supportive. So get those out. Number 2, envious people. I'm going to do a whole video about envy because I feel like a lot of you guys can't spot these people, which, by the way, I had the same problem. And there was a certain dude, I'm not going to say his name, but I used to be cool with him, and I say cool very subjectively, and the guy would always do a lot of backbiting. He would always like talk shit. He would always insult me, and then he would say he was joking around, and this became like an ongoing thing until eventually I stopped talking to him, and he had a complete fucking meltdown, and he's been obsessed with me ever since because he's a narcissist. And people who are narcissistic, the minute you cut that cord, they lose their minds. They lose because they think they have control over you, and when they lose that control, it's like a breakup to them. You understand what I'm saying? I've actually had a few people like that in my life, but there's one in particular that I was friends with on YouTube. We weren't really friends. I never really trusted the guy, but he constantly would, constantly backbiting, constantly making little, snide references and shit. Get those people out of your fucking life, dude. You don't want people in your life who are envious because they're very dangerous. People like that, if you give them a position where they have some kind of responsibility, or if you bring them in too close, they will do what they can to step on you at some point. Because that's what the envy is driving them to do. The envy is driving them to make friends with you. And they may even think in their heads they're actually friends with you. But deep down inside, there's that sort of missing element that they're lacking something in their life. So they have to suck out your energy and use you to get themselves to elevate themselves. Or they bring you down to their level, or they try to. You do not want people like that in your life, because envy, haters are the same thing as envious people, and you don't want them in your life. They're going to exist. They're going to be out there. Some of them are probably watching this video right now. It's fine. Like, I don't care. Like, it's something that you deal with in life. Even if you're not like, even if you're not doing something public, you're going to deal with people like this in the corporate world too, who are envious, who are going to pretend to be your friend. Get those people out. Also, people who are gossipers, I get them out of my life. Have you ever been in a Discord server? Because let me tell you something I have, where there's people who spend all day just shitting on other people who they don't even know. I've been in Discord servers where I've been kind of lurking, and I've seen people straight up trash me, trash my channel, and I just keep my mouth shut sometimes. I used to confront them, but I stopped. And it's like, I look at them and I'm like, wow, so I have this much of an impact on your life that you're spending your free time complaining about my existence, which has absolutely no impact on your actual life. It's just they like to complain and they like to gossip. Anybody who's talking about, oh, well, this person said this, I heard this about that person. We all do that to a degree, but if somebody's constantly and chronically gossiping about others, even if it's not about you, guess what? Chances are they are gossiping about you behind your back. Gossips are some of the worst people because they're so bored and have such a lack of integrity and such a lack of motivation and ambition that instead of going out there and doing something, all they do is talk about how everybody else is imperfect and everybody else has flaws, not even looking at their own flaws. You understand? So get those people out of your life. Lazy people, I cannot be around them. And that goes back to people who are unmotivated. They're kind of hand in hand. I can't be around lazy people, dude. I can't be around lazy people, man. And usually lazy people fall into these other categories because lazy people, like haters and envious people, ultimately are lazy people. You understand? Gossipers are lazy people. They all connect. You understand what I'm saying? They all connect into making a toxic person, or a person who is vacuous and is empty and their life has no meaning. They can give their life meaning, but they don't think they can for whatever reason, but they can. And so they rather spend their day tearing somebody else down. Stay away from those people. And again, lazy people seem to go, not all lazy people are like this, because some lazy people, they do coincide, right? But there are some lazy people who are just good people. But for me, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who wants to open up 2 or 3 more businesses, which is my plan for the next few years, I don't want to be around people who don't want to work. And I'm not saying I have to be around a workaholic. and we're going to get to that here in a minute, but I don't want to be around people like that because all they do is anchor you, and then they end up asking you for money, and they become this maladaptive, kind of annoying person. You ever have that one friend that asks you for money and then pays you back late or doesn't pay you back at all? Like, those are the kind of people you want to stay away from. And also that goes with people that have no integrity. Like if I borrow money from you, I'm going to pay you back even if we stop being friends. There's a YouTuber, I'm not going to say who I lent $500 to out of my own money to help them pay for their rent, and they still haven't paid me back. We haven't been friends in 2 years. Now, one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to reach out to them and say, hey, pay me back, because they're not going to pay me back. And again, even if we stop being friends, I'm still going to pay you back if you let me borrow money because I need it to pay my rent. That person's a scumbag in my eyes. That's scummy shit. That makes you a bad person. And that person also fits a lot of the qualifications of other people in this video. You understand? So that's something else you want to avoid. People who are like that. Another one, people who are overly political and have what I call political brainworms. People who are on social media attacking people on the other side. Conservatives who are so far right they attack the left every day. Leftists who are so far to the left that they attack conservatives every day. They're all racist. They're all white men. They're all Trump supporters. Then on the other side, oh, you guys are trying to, transition babies and all this. There's always a battle about this all the time. But you want to stay away from people who are extreme on either side. And if you happen to be that person, man, I'm going to stay away from you. No offense. Doesn't mean I don't care about you as a person, but people who are who have political brainworms, what this means is that their whole life, rather than having an ideology that serves them, their whole life involves their politics, and that's all they talk about. People who are usually on Facebook posting up this, QAnon shit, or they're posting up why Joe Biden did this, and it's just, that's all they talk about. And it's never anything uplifting. It's always about how many problems we have in the world and, why the Democrats are bad, why the Republicans. If that's all they talk about. And again, there's a healthy discourse of political discussion that can be had amongst adults. But if that's all they talk about, you're dealing with a very closed-minded person and somebody who's not going to serve you. You don't want to be around people who are closed-minded. Now, again, these are my qualities of a toxic person. Yours might be different. You might actually be in this group and say, okay, I want to be around more liberals or more conservatives. That's fine. You do you. But I'm saying for me, I have friends on both sides and people who are just constantly like, that's all they discuss. It's like their whole life is about it and they're not even getting paid for it. And they blame their problems on government. Well, I'm broke because this president did this or that president did that. I didn't like that policy. Again, you have a right to complain about injustices as a person, but if this is all you do, and then another one is when they try to convert you, when they fight with you about your opinion, and they're fighting in a very hostile way, you don't want to be around those people, man. You just don't. Those people don't serve you. Like, I don't do well with those people. Again, I have friends on both sides, but I've noticed a lot of the friends that I've dropped lately do seem to be extreme political people. And maybe not even as extreme as they realize, but they do things like harassing people on social media. Like if you're friends with somebody, that's the next one. If you're friends with somebody who harasses people on social media, they're a coward, they're a loser, and you don't want to be around them because eventually they'll turn on you. That's another big one right there. And I know that from being a guy who works on the internet. Like, people who are always harassing other people, dude, that falls into all the other categories of being toxic. There's envy there, because if there wasn't envy, you wouldn't be harassing somebody else. There's boredom, for sure. There's lack of actual ambition in your life. Ambition is, I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to lift 50 pounds. I'm going to curl 50 pounds, 10 times 4. That's ambition. Like, today I'm going to go out and I'm going to research how to open up a restaurant. That's ambition. Not today I'm going to go on Twitter and harass this YouTuber or harass this Twitch streamer. Like, you do not want to be friends with them. And here's the problem. I know for a fact a lot of you guys are. A lot of you guys, and I'm not coming down on you, you know I love you, this video's for you, but a lot of you guys are friends with motherfuckers who are chronically online, which is, again, that's a big problem. They're always in Discord, they're always talking shit, and it's never anything productive or anything to improve themselves. It's always tearing somebody else down or figuring out ways to cancel someone and all that shit. You don't want to be around those people, dude. Not if you want to be a success. Because I'm telling you right now, the minute you become a success, their true colors will show. I will promise you that. I've seen it so many times, not just to me, to my other content creator friends. Remember, I have friends in this YouTube and Twitch sphere that you don't even know who I talk to. Some of you guys have no idea who I talk to. Like, I have friends who work in the finance part of YouTube. I have friends in the movie side, the music side. Like, I got friends everywhere, and we have these discussions, and we oftentimes talk about these poisonous people that we just choose not to be around. It's good to be around other people who are like-minded as you when it comes to setting goals and being winners, not people who are always, harassing. Like, you don't want to be around them. And if you're around them because you have no other friends, then you have to learn two things. One, how to make new friends and good ones, which I'll talk about in a different video. Or two, how to be alone. Because I think a lot of folks get very lonely, and I get it. I understand. You want to belong to a group. You want to feel special. You were raised by a single mother or a single father, didn't have as much love in your life. There's a lot of different variables. I get it. I study psychology. I understand. I get it. But sometimes you'll surround yourself with people who are just, the wrong people for you. They don't serve you. And then what happens is you get caught up in their bullshit and you start gossiping and talking shit about people. And then all of a sudden they accept you because you're doing what they're doing, not realizing that what they're doing is bad behavior. It's sort of like if you want to become a ninja thief. So you steal to impress the ninja thieves. Dude, you're still stealing. You're still doing the wrong thing. Okay, great. You got accepted by a bunch of scumbags. Ninjas are cool, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm using that as a weird example. Ninjas are cool, but I would never, join a ninja clan because they do a lot of shit that I wouldn't want to do. You know what I mean? Even though it'd be cool. I'm not going to lie. But you get what I'm saying. Like, people who do bad things to please other bad people, you don't want to be that. You want to be somebody who has good morals and good ethics and treats people fairly. So that's sort of another thing to watch out for. So this next one's going to be very subjective. It's very subjective. I want y'all to really think about this because everyone's going to have a different answer for this one. It's going to be very vague, but I'm going to get into it. I tend to stay away from people who are dumb. Now let me explain what I mean by dumb because this needs explaining. It's one thing to be ignorant. People are ignorant means you don't know. Like I'm ignorant on certain things about history. I'm ignorant on Naruto or whatever. Like I'm ignorant on there's lots of things that I don't know. I don't know how to make sushi. I don't know how to, wire a house for electric. There's a lot of things I don't know. That's ignorance. That's the basic definition of ignorance is not knowing. But when you're dealing with people who have a hard time grasping simple concepts, and some of them may be on the spectrum, some may not. So again, this one's very variable. But if you're around people who either make bad life choices constantly, like for example, somebody who impregnates multiple women, then can't pay for all the kids, like you don't want to be around those kind of people. Again, I'm not saying to ignore them and stop being their friend. I'm saying don't let them into your inner circle. I have tons of friends who have made mistakes in life. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake. I've made mistakes. But we're talking about a pattern. You got to recognize patterns, of, people who are oftentimes, when I say dumb, like who don't really, they let their emotions consume them versus like thinking logically. They oftentimes, aren't very educated. Like everybody has that one friend who just, it's kind of, barely making it through life. Everyone's had that friend, right? And you feel bad for them, but you don't want to let them into your inner circle because if you got bigger aspirations, bigger goals, bigger dreams, they could much more easily segue into being one of these other types of people. The envy could kick in. A lot of people who are dumb are also very envious. A lot of that, all this coincides, bro. A lot of these do cross-reference, but When I say dumb, like I have a hard time being around people who aren't able to at least closely match me intellectually, and I have to dumb myself down a lot. I've talked about this to my private friends a lot, but I have to dumb myself down a lot. Like, and it gets kind of exhausting because for me to dumb myself down, it requires energy, and sometimes I don't want to have to do that. Well, again, this is not about like if I ask you a question about like Dragon Ball and you don't know the answer to it. It's more so like a very basic concept. Like, for example, the concept of if I don't go to work, I can't pay my bills, and thus, I will lose what I have. I know people who have lost their cars, who's had their cars repossessed, and they blame everybody but themselves. No, dude, you're the one that chose to blow your money on snacks or on some girl or on some hooker or something. You understand? Like that, you got to be careful with that. Also, so that's why that one's subjective. You have to think about that one. For me, I tend to stay away from them. I have plenty of friends who are not super intelligent, but that's okay. It's not about that. It's more so about like how you view life. You understand what I'm saying? And that a lot of the dumb ones are also lazy. They all coincides. I also tend, to stay away from people who are very much controlled by their addictions. People who are bad into drugs, very hard drugs, alcoholism, that type of shit. And when I mean bad, I mean like an actual addict. If you're somebody who, lights up once in a while or, maybe you even tried some pills, I'm not going to judge you. I don't judge people for that. Like, you shouldn't. If you have like a reason to be taking certain medicines, it's all good. But people who have the bad addiction, the ones that end up going from place to place because they don't have a place to stay, the ones that are always fighting with their girlfriends or boyfriends, the ones that are that can't control themselves. Oftentimes you have people who love to... Remember, how everybody has that likes to fight friend who every time you go out with him, he wants to pick a fight with some stranger? I've had a friend like that. You don't want to be around those people because what's going to happen is they're going to get nailed. At some point, they may get arrested, and just you being with them means you're going to get arrested too. I remember I went to a house once, and they were snorting cocaine. This is many, many, many years ago. I went to a friend of a friend's house. They were snorting cocaine, doing weed, and they had pills. They had all kinds of shit there. I was younger. I did not feel comfortable there because everyone was an addict. Everyone was freaking on the couch, just completely like stoned out of their mind. Like, dude, it was really weird. It was almost like they were dead bodies, but they were just passed out. And I just felt very uncomfortable because if the cops show up, even if I have an empty system, I may still get arrested. I may still get detained or questioned. You don't want to be around that. You don't want drama in your life. People are the worst ones at bringing drama to their own life. So somebody who's like, an addict, Also, these same people will sometimes ask you to buy them alcohol or ask to borrow money. And, those, like, basically these people who I guess would be, deadbeats, I guess you can say. You don't want to be around them. You just don't want them in your circle, man, because they negatively influence you to take shortcuts that are going to end up costing you more than they're worth taking, or they're going to lead you down the wrong path. How can somebody who has an addiction to drugs teach me about life? I can learn from their mistakes, and if they're old, they're going to have some wisdom. But if your whole life you've fucked up and made mistakes, I can learn from that. But it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to follow your footsteps. On the contrary, I'm not going to follow your footsteps. I'm going to do the opposite of what you do to get ahead. So you can learn from these people, but you got to keep them out of your inner circle. That to me, I feel is a pretty decent list of who I tend to stay away from. I mentioned envious people, lazy people, people who gossip about others and talk shit about others. And I used to be friends with a lot of people like this, but not anymore. People who are always down their luck, unhappy people. Like, it's one thing to have to know a friend who's going through some shit and to be there for them. And I always try to be there for my friends. But if someone is going through some shit and it's a chronic, endless, spiraling cycle of negativity where they make things worse and they make bad decisions, it does tend to weigh on you a bit, especially if you're involved. Because the problem is you don't want to get involved either. And there have been situations where, I've put myself in situations where I don't want to be in. I've been in situations where I've had a couple who are friends of mine fighting in public, literally physically fighting. And I'm over here like, holy shit, I don't want to have to talk to no cops tonight. I just want to have a relaxing night. And then I stop hanging out with those people because of that reason. Because it's just, when there's always drama, that's the big one, yo. People who bring drama into your life, get them the fuck out. It may hurt. You may feel lonely. You may want to call them up to talk. Nothing wrong with that. But just don't tell them everything about what your plans are. Don't bring them too close. You know, for the most part. Obviously, there's people who, if you've known them your whole life and they're just a deadbeat, but you trust them, that's at least better. Because like I said, there are good people who have some of these habits. But for the most part, if I meet any new people who have these habits, I always tend to think twice and say, okay, you know, I just want to be around winners, man. I want to be around people who are creative, people who have good ideas, people who inspire me and who are smarter than me. And ideally, you want to do that, and you may not get to do that right away. It may take time, may take years, and you might not ever have access to those people for a long time, or if ever. But you can always find someone who can help you and who's got the right mentality, who's got the right winner's mentality and focus and drive. And you should know, hopefully, how to vet these people. And the same thing goes with who you date. Anyways, I'm out, y'all. Take care. Longer one today, but it's a bonus. Talk to you soon.